I talk to people all the time about Christians think this, liberals think that. You just take Chick-fil-A, for example, or any of the other big political issues going on in the news that have a religious undertone. And I walk away from those conversations saying, is the most important thing to me, the primary thing, is it that issue in politics? Is it the fact that gay people don't get equal marriage rights? Is that the most important thing to me? And I have to apologize. Christians owe the world a huge apology. If you read Don Miller's book, Blue Like Jazz, he sets up a confession booth in the middle of a college campus and has people coming in, drunk, wasted, out of their minds. They come into the confession booth thinking they are going to be confessing some kind of sins from the evening to some guy in a booth. Actually, quite the opposite. Don Miller is there and he says, let me stop you. You see, I have to confess to you. I have to apologize for all Christians in the world making mistakes day after day. And it's true. So, world, I want you to hear, whenever you're talking to a supposed conservative, a supposed Christian, about any of these newspaper issues, we owe you an apology because we're not being straight with you. If we really understood the whole issue, we would say this. Issues may be what they are, but do you know Jesus? And by that I mean, do you know what he said when he came to the earth? Yes, the Bible is real. Yes, the Bible can be trusted. There's so much evidence for it in so many books that you haven't read, and we want to say, please come read them with us. You can trust the Bible. And moving on from that, you have to say, Jesus came to set people free from a problem, from a disease. We all have an issue called sin. Dress it up however you want, or pick another term for it. It's called selfishness. It's called jealousy. It's called hatred of other people for no reason. It's called alcoholism. It's called addiction to pornography. It's called lying. It's called boasting. It's called pride. It's all these things. So the list goes on and on. You know sin just like I know sin because it's in us, and because all we have to do is look outside the window at our neighborhoods and you know there's adultery going on, there's embezzlement, there's lying, there's all sorts of problems just outside your door. No one lives that shiny, happy American life, despite how their house looks on the outside and the inside. Now, if you're following with me on the problem of sin, you know just as well as I do that it's a personal problem. Maybe you've never revealed it to somebody. I have to confess to you that despite being involved in Christian ministries, despite being a camp counselor, despite being in the mission field, despite my church attendance, I still don't have it nailed. I still struggle with looking at women the way I shouldn't. And that's the least of it. I could go on and on about that. I still struggle with covering up the truth because I want to present the best image I can of myself. In an interview or when I'm talking to people about things I'm involved in, I leave out the bad parts and I make the good parts sound even better. I don't know if you've ever done that. I have to apologize to everybody because sometimes I'm too quick to want to win an argument. And I can think 100 times through what I should have said, how I should have said it. If only I'd said this, they would have been convinced. But that's ridiculous because, as you know on Facebook, any kind of argument never really convinces anybody of anything. I don't know how political opinions are changed. All I know is that we have them because of where we come from. We have them because of the house we grew up in, or the city, or the country we're from. That's it. And we typically don't change them. So I'm not trying to change anybody's political nothing. What I want to do is tell you how I've been changed. That's through the work of Jesus Christ. There are times that we are people we don't want to be. We have a double nature. Even though really we respect somebody, if we want the approval of another group, we're very quick to dismiss that person, even if we don't think that. just to get that approval of the cool group. We betray ourselves. We're so political. We say one thing, we mean another. No one really knows who we are. Sometimes I don't even know who I am. I've done it 100 times. And so Christians, we owe the world an apology. If we start to say anything besides we are in rehab ourselves, if we start to talk about those people as if they're the enemy and not reveal anything within ourselves that has an issue and needs to be worked on, we've left humility. Maybe we never had it in the first place. It's very likely that we have opinions influenced by Scripture, influenced by what Jesus might have said, but we have nothing to do with him. And Scripture is very clear. It says multiple times, I have banged at the door at the late hour, and Jesus answers it and says, depart from me, for I don't know you. And then you might say, but didn't we cast out demons in your name? Didn't we minister in your name? Didn't we eat with you? Didn't we go to church all our lives? Didn't we do all this stuff that we thought was the American Christian way? But you know what? If we didn't know Jesus, if we never let him into our lives, then we don't know him, and we're not Christians. It begins there. You have to be real with yourself before you can talk to anybody about their issues. You can't leave a plank in your eye trying to pull a speck of sawdust out of someone else's eye. So what I have to get off my chest is this. I owe the world an apology if you think, if I come across as saying I have all the answers, but I have no issues myself. Of course I do. More issues than I want to count. But what I'm wondering is, do people think that because Christians might be so screwed up, or because we might have a lot of hypocrites walking in churches, that means their beliefs are wrong? They can't possibly have any kind of right truth about the world. There's no way that that's true. Because that's the same thing as saying, if you look at an orphanage, you're going to see a bunch of dirty kids sitting outside in the dust. Maybe they're extra skinny. Maybe they don't have the right clothing. You don't want to be associated with them. I understand. But that doesn't mean that the orphanage itself or the person who adopted those kids is also like that. There's no way. You cannot judge the master because of the people he's adopted. So you need to go read. You need to go study. I still need to study more. I don't have all the answers. But what I do know is 3 things. 1, Jesus has changed my life. 2, I've never seen more historical and more amounts of evidence for any kind of historical claim as the claims I see in the Bible, backed up to the T with more manuscripts and more archaeological evidence than any other event in history. And that's why it wasn't questioned for 1800 years until the Enlightenment started making people think we're pretty smart. We better go second guess everything we've ever thought without significant evidence. And number 3, Christ has the prescription for the world. It works. His truth heals people. His truth fixes everything. Life in the church can be amazing. Christ died for the body of believers, we call it the church. That's his wife. And he laid down his life so that they could have life. And if that kind of self-sacrifice doesn't motivate you, then you're actually probably like me, because I didn't get it at first either. But now that I'm coming to understand it more and more, it wants to change my life. And it can. And so I'm just praying that you're listening and connecting with some of that.